Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress. 88 days till the World Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana. What is that? 12 weeks, 12 and a half weeks. And on Chess to Impress we're continuing the build-up, the countdown. We have seen Steinitz become the first official and undisputed world champion in 1886. We saw him defend his title a number of times. And in the last video we saw the second world champion rise to the top. Emanuel, Lasker. But the old fighter Steinitz was not finished yet. As you can see, he got a rematch against Lasker in 1896. And that's what this video is about. Here we see a picture from 1896. World champion Lasker is looking in the camera, and on the right we see Wilhelm Steinitz. How did this match come about? After Lasker beat Steinitz in 1894 to become world champion, the next famous tournament was the Hastings 1895 tournament, which was won by the American Pillsbury. And after the tournament it was Mikhail Chigorin who invited the strongest players of Hastings to play a match tournament in St. Petersburg in Russia. Lasker, Steinitz, Pillsbury and Chigorin played each other 6 times. Siegbert Tarrasch also qualified, but he was too busy with his day job, so could not participate. Lasker won that tournament. Steinitz came second, who immediately then issued a formal challenge for a match to Lasker. The match was held in Moscow. The winner would be the first to win 10 games. But unfortunately it turned out to be a bit of a mismatch. Lasker won 10 games to 2. And sad events occurred after the match. Only 4 weeks after the match, Steinitz was admitted to a psychiatric clinic. And also very sad is that Lasker took a 3-year break from chess, focusing on his mathematics career after the match. Here we see the results. It took Lasker only 17 games to win 10 of them. As you can see, he won the first 4, and sometime later he was 7-0 up. Steinitz won game 12 and 13. But lost 3 more games, and it was over all very soon. 10-2 to Lasker, who remained world champion. It was the chess master Horowitz who had some nice things to say about the match. One is of 2 minds about the second Lasker-Steinitz match. On the one hand, it is tempting to assert that it should never have been played at all. Steinitz was then over 60 years old, in poor health physically, and had driven himself close to nervous collapse through trying to regain the prestige he had lost in losing the title. On the other, had Lasker denied him the opportunity to regain the crown he had worn for so long, it would have been considered, and rightly so, the rankest injustice. Perhaps it's sensible, therefore, to look on the second match as one of those sad things that, for better or worse, just had to happen. Nicely said by Horowitz. We're looking at the first game of this rematch, played on the 7th of November 1896. The challenger Steinitz was white, opened e4, and the world champion Lasker played e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 and bishop c5, the Giuoco piano of the Italian game. c3 is an old line, knight f6, d4 hitting the bishop, e takes, c takes, and the bishop gives a check. Knight c3, and is that pawn now not hanging on e4 because of the pin? Yes it is, but this was all theory. Knight takes e4, Steinitz castled, now the knight is hanging, the pin is no longer there, and Lasker took the knight. Nowadays the grandmasters play d5 here, and then either bishop f6 is played or knight e5, and then white regains the piece, but Steinitz took the bishop. Now you cannot be greedy as Lasker, you cannot take another pawn, because then there is queen e1 check, and because of the double attack, white wins a piece. After b takes c3, Lasker therefore played d5, hitting the bishop. And nowadays in this position bishop d3 is played, or queen c2, counter-attacking the knight if black takes the bishop. But Steinitz played bishop a3. Surprising move maybe, but he had played it many times before. He sacrifices a piece. What does he get for the piece? Well, this bishop is keeping the king in the center, and that bishop has no opponent. Black already parted with his dark squared bishop. Lasker took the piece, took on c4, rook e1, the knight is pinned, and in game 3, so 2 games later in this match, Lasker gave the piece back straight away with bishop e6, rook takes e4 happened, queen d5, queen e2, and Lasker solved the problem of his king by castling queenside. But in this game 1, bishop e6 was not played. Lasker just defended the knight with f5, playing this position a piece up. White has compensation. Steinitz played knight d2, putting pressure on the knight on e4. The king stepped out of the way, and Steinitz took that strong knight. F takes, rook takes, and now white would love to play queen f3, attacking black's king, but black prevents that with queen f6. Queen e2, and bishop f5. A variation given by Lasker after this game was rook f4 here for white, then h5. He wants to walk away with his king to safety. Queen takes c4 check, king g6, d5, knight e5 hitting the queen takes that pawn, and then rook h e8. And Lasker writes, although black is 2 pawns behind for the piece and may lose a third, his attack is excellent. Lasker liked its position for black and is going to attack white's king. But after bishop f5, rook f4 was not played by Steinitz. Steinitz took the pawn with check. King went to g6, and the rook goes out of the attack of the bishop. Lasker brings his rook to the center, and so does Steinitz. Here rook g3 check would have been a better move to make sure the black king will not escape after playing up the h-pawn. The king has to go to h5 and then queen b5, and white still had good compensation for the piece. But rook ae1 was played. Lasker swapped a pair of rooks, and now rook g3 check is a big threat, followed by maybe queen e2 and or bishop c1. Strong attack from white. h5 played by Lasker to make some space for his king. After rook g3 check now, king h7 or king h6, and black's king is safe, and here black is just a piece up. So white has to try another strategy. He played h3, h4 from Lasker, and d5, which is really the only way to continue. Knight e5, and Steinitz took the pawn. Steinitz has 2 pawns for the piece, and this d5 pawn looks a real asset. He still has compensation. Knight d3, protected by the bishop. Steinitz took another pawn, and bishop c8. Nice move, threatening the queen, and threatening to take on f2. So Steinitz now has to swap the queens. Queen c6 is the only move, and that ensures a queen swap. Lasker took, d takes, the knight is hanging, so knight f4, and Steinitz infiltrates with his rook. Attacking the a-pawn, so a6, c4, Lasker brings his king closer, rook to a7, knight d3, bishop gave a check, king e6, rook c7, knight e5, and bishop g5, hitting the g-pawn. Lasker protects the g-pawn, bishop e7, keeping the king out of d6 for the moment to attack the c-pawns. g5, c5, knight back to f7, Steinitz plays f3, rook e8, Steinitz brings the king in, and now a pair of bishop gets swapped in a unconventional way. Rook takes e7 and rook takes c8. King d5. Black is going to win the c-pawns, and white's compensation slowly but surely has evaporated. Rook a8 was played by Steinitz. Knight e5, and if you now take that pawn, then there is knight d3 check. You have to be very careful. You cannot go with the king to f1, because then the game is over on the spot. Checkmate. So after knight d3 check, you have to go to g1. Then knight takes c5, attacking the rook. Rook a3 and king takes c6. And a technically winning endgame for black. After knight e5, Steinitz did not take the pawn. He played king e3. Knight takes c6 is check. The rook is check to the king. King d2. a5 protected by the knight. Rook the other way. Rook e5. f4. Those pawns got swapped. And rook h5, just protecting his pawn. King e3. Knight e5. Black has outplayed white. Lasker has outplayed Steinitz. And as we often see in a bad position, we see another mistake from the player that's struggling. Rook a4 is a bad move. And finishes the game very quickly. Knight c4 check. Very good move. And what we see here is that the rook is trapped. It doesn't have any squares. It's check, so king f4. And now king takes c5. And that was the last move of the game. Black is going to play king b5, and the rook is trapped. The rook will have to sacrifice itself for the knight, and that will leave black a rook up. A bad start for Willem Steinitz in this match. He was outplayed by his opponent after the piece sacrifice. And as I mentioned, Lasker won game 2, 3 and 4 as well. Game 3 with the same opening. As I mentioned, world champion Emanuel Lasker took a 3-year break from chess after this match to focus on his mathematics career, and you can see that it took 11 years after the 1896 match until Lasker defended his title again, and it was this time against Frank Marshall, the American. And I will tell you all about how that match came about and show you a game from that match in the next video. Hope you're enjoying this series. If you do, please spread the word. Please share this video with your chess friends. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. The link is in the description box. And also in the description box is the link to this 100 Days Carlsen-Caruana series. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.